So these last few weeks I've had my SIM secreted inside of Samsung's surprisingly slender Galaxy A57. Now, this skinny wee beastie is nowhere near as sphincter-shreddingly expensive as the S26 phones, but it still starts from a not inconsiderable 529 quid, rising to £699 if you fancy more of that storage and RAM shenanigans. And even at that entry price, it's competing with some tasty mid-rangers like the Nothing Phone 4a Pro and Poco's X8 Pro Max, as well as some utter arse gravy like the iPhone 17e, of course. So is it actually worth bothering with? Well, here's my full Samsung Galaxy A57 review, and for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do subscribe, ding that old notifications bell. Cheers! So first off, gotta say I do like the feel of the Samsung Galaxy A57. So this is the thinnest Samsung A series handset yet. Now we're not quite talking Galaxy S25 Edge levels of skinniness here. Here is the S25 Edge side by side with the A57, just so you can see. And of course you'll find other super slender options out there like the Motorola Edge 70. The Galaxy A57 not quite in that league, but it does feel almost as delightfully thin and light as those super skinny Gits. And those bezels have slimmed down slightly for this generation as well, although as you can see they're still not symmetrical. Got a bit of a Jimmy Hill chin going on down there. Although actually I'm guessing not many people really know who Jimmy Hill is these days. Need to update that reference. Henry Cavill chin, I guess. Anyway, it's fine. It's only a problem if you've got a serious stiffy for aesthetics. As always, you've got yourself a metal frame giving off a premium vibe, and it's Gorilla Glass Victus Plus front and back. And so far, nary a scratch or nick anywhere on the Galaxy A57 because it's only been a week, but the durability seems perfectly fine. There's bugger-all screen protector on there, no damage so far, despite the fact I've generally treated this thing with bugger-all respect. And yes, unfortunately, Samsung is still going with the awesome colour name conventions for the Galaxy A57 series, presumably in an ill-advised attempt to appeal to the kids. This right here is the awesome lilac version, but you can also snaffle the A57 in awesome icy blue, awesome navy, or awesome grey. There's certainly a special kind of person who can refer to the colour grey as awesome. Really hope they're going to change up these names for the A58 series, maybe go with a cheeky bit of Spafftastic Scarlet or Jizzworthy Ginger. Unfortunately, that arse end is extremely shiny and glossy, which does pick up smudgy, nasty, greasy grime rather easily. And mercifully, this lilac colour does an okay job of masking those smudges, but they do show up in quite a horrific fashion on the darker models. And it's more water resistant for this generation as well, fully IP68 rated, so it can be submerged in the drink for bloody ages. It's pretty handy if you accidentally fumble it into the toilet, you have to go hunting around for a stick to fish it out again. Now to unlock the Galaxy A57, well, you've got your basic in-display optical fingerprint sensor, which is far from the swiftest around. As you can see there, sometimes takes a wee while actually recognising you. But it is at least generally dependable. I've rarely had it fail on me. Even when my hands are quite wet, usually does the job absolutely fine, although the screen responsiveness does bulk up pretty bad when it's moist. I've certainly struggled to use this thing in the bath, or when I've been out and about and it's been absolutely chucking it down. And of course you've got the usual face unlock support as backup as well. And of course it's good old OneUI 8.5 out of the box, the latest freshest version. And you'll enjoy the same level of support as usual. 6 years of OS updates and security patching for this A-series blower. So almost as good as Google's 7-year pledge, although a lot of mid-range rivals are slowly catching up, starting to offer 5 or 6 years of support now. And the A57 once again mercifully comes with 256 gigs of storage as standard, not a measly 128 gigs. Otherwise I'd be slightly stuffed after just one bloody week. So I'm very glad that Samsung didn't downgrade the storage to 128 gigs again like it did with the A37. Ugh. You can upgrade to 512 gigs of storage if you take a lot of photos, shoot a lot of video, or just download lots of bloody apps like Wuthering Waves, which take up like 50-60 gigs by themselves. As far as connectivity goes, you've got eSIM support as well as physical SIM and Wi-Fi 6E support, but I did notice that the Wi-Fi was particularly slow here on the Galaxy A57 for some reason. Whenever I tried downloading apps or big files, it would always take much longer on the A57 compared with other smartphones connected to the same network. And I tried everything in my admittedly rather limited geeky repertoire to try and sort it out, so I rebooted it a good 3 or 4 times, tried messing around with the smart Wi-Fi settings and everything. Eventually I actually downloaded the Ookla speed test just to try and prove I wasn't going nuts, and sure enough this confirmed the Wi-Fi connectivity was slower than a hungover tortoise wearing concrete shoes. Yeah, it was still fine for streaming video, streaming music, all that kind of stuff. It's just downloading big files took ruddy forever. Wuthering Waves, bloody hell. Had to pull on my patient pants for that one. And hey, if you like AI, well the Samsung Galaxy A57 will certainly be your happy place, because there's enough AI stuffed in here to choke a beluga. Including not just 1 but 3 AI agents, Gemini, Bixby and Perplexity. Otherwise, let's face it, Bixby is very much the third leg here. If this AI trio was pop-tastic 80s band Bros, then Bixby would very much be the one that wasn't Luke or Matt Goss. And this guy here, whatever the f*** he's called. But anyway, you've got loads of Samsung's other AI gubbins chucked on here. Not quite as many tools as the S series flagships, but most of the main bits, including camera favourites like Best Face, particularly handy if your family has the habit of blinking every time you try taking a shot, and Auto Trim if you can't be asked to edit your own video to create a highlights reel. There's bugger all sign of the Creative Studio or the Daily Briefs, but I really didn't miss either of those, to be honest. The notification summarization would have been nice, but hey ho. What I'm more annoyed about is the fact that Samsung has ditched the calls screening feature for the A57, which was one of the best bits of the S26 series. Really handy if you get a lot of calls from unknown numbers. You can actually figure out who is calling you before you decide whether to pick up or not. So I'm not really sure why it's omitted here, but that certainly makes me a very sad spurt. But you do get the same great split screen action as those flagships, which is particularly great for listening to video on the likes of YouTube in the background while you're working on other stuff, browsing the internet, whatever. And then you got the usual OneUI foibles, like the fact that Samsung has basically duplicated all of the apps and services that Google offers. Its web browser, its app store, health tracking, smart home shenanigans, all the rest of it. Which does make OneUI feel a bit heavy and inefficient, but you can choose to use Google's stuff and just uninstall most of the Samsung shenanigans if you fancy it. Now the Galaxy A57's 6.7-inch Super AMOLED Plus display is pretty damn decent, as you would expect from Samsung really. The Full HD Plus resolution means those visuals are crisp enough, if not quite as pin-sharp as some rivals like the Poco X8 Pro Max, with its whopping great 1.5K screen. On the default display settings, the screen is pretty poppy overall, great for watching animated fare, and you got slick contrast as well. Netflix currently only supporting HDR10 video. The app didn't report on HDR10+, although Samsung does insist it supports that more advanced format. And of course there's bugger all Dolby Vision support as usual. Certainly powerfully bright as well, ideal for outdoors use. In fact, my only complaint in that department is it could do with being a wee bit dimmer when you bump it all the way down, just for more comfortable, easy on the eye experience at night. You know, when you're in bed at 2 AM searching for information on intestinal parasites, or whatever it is you do to relax at night. And it hits 120Hz refresh as well, so silky smooth and everything. But as usual, the PWM dimming is a bit crap compared with a lot of Chinese rivals, so if you are sensitive to that OLED flicker, I'd say look elsewhere. And naturally, the Samsung Galaxy A57 sports a stereo speaker arrangement, although the bottom speaker is clearly louder and beefier than that top jobby. But the imbalance of the audio is my only gripe. These blasters are loud enough to make themselves heard over all kinds of background shenanigans. On the top volume, you still get clear separation, vocals come through nice and cleanly, and even music doesn't sound completely terrible. Speaking of which, Bluetooth 6.1 support on here, and I found that the Bluetooth wireless streaming absolutely impeccable the entire time I was testing. However, I was rather sad to see that UHQ audio streaming was not supported on the Galaxy A57 when you pair them up with Samsung's own Galaxy Buds 4 Pro. Hopefully that SSC codec support will come in a future update, but for now you'll have to spunk up for one of Sammy's more expensive smartphones in order to enjoy that ultra crispy, high quality 96kHz streaming. And now let's have a bit of a shufty at the performance, and Samsung has gone with its very own fresh Exynos 1680 chipset to run the show here. That's backed by a choice of 8 or 12 gigs of RAM. Mine is the entry level 8 giga. I found the everyday running on here absolutely fine, nice and smooth when you're flicking through apps, menus, etc. Generally not waiting more than a second or two for an app to load up. And gaming on the likes of Call of Duty and optimized Android titles, no worries there, you'll get a perfect frame rate even after hours of being sniped from miles away by filthy cheating school children on their school bloody holidays. Come on, face me like a man, you wee scragger. Unfortunately, more hefty open world titles like Wuthering Waves are a different matter. Despite a slight upgrade for the CPU and GPU performance versus the previous generation, the Galaxy A57 could not maintain a stable 60 frames per second. That's even when I used the handy game toolbar to switch to performance mode. As long as you leave the graphics on medium settings, Wuthering Waves will be perfectly playable, just not quite as smooth as what you'll find on some rivals like the Poco X8 Pro Max. You've also got a 13% larger vapor chamber versus the old A56, and this seemed to do the job nicely. Over an hour of Wuthering Waves action on the A57 did not get this phone hot under the collar. It stayed merely warm to the touch and with bug roll drop in performance. As for the battery tech, well, it's a 5000 mAh cell slapped into the Galaxy A57's slender chassis, so actually the same size as the Galaxy S26 Ultra's battery, if not as capacious as the silicon carbon tech stuffed into, again, a lot of mid-range rivals these days. But hey, you know what? Even on my longest, most intense days with my SIM slipped inside the Galaxy A57, I'm talking, you know, a good sort of like 40-50 minutes of Wuthering Waves action to get all my daily stuff checked off. Good bit of video chatting, plenty of video streaming, music streaming, bit of camera action as well. I never once managed to completely drain that battery. Sure, I was in like single digits by the end of the day when I finally got tucked up with Teddy, balls deep in that power saver mode, but I never actually managed to kill it off in a single 24-hour period. So if you are a more demanding user like myself, you might be swayed by something like, again, a Poco X8 Pro Max with its whopping great, I think it was like 8000 mAh battery, but the Galaxy A57 does the job. And if you are a more casual user, you're just streaming a bit of video, a bit of music or something, it does tend to drain the battery quite slowly. And if you do find yourself gaming non-stop on Wuthering Waves at 60 frames per second with that performance mode switched on, well, you can expect approximately 4 full hours of action, just over if you do keep the graphics settings down a bit. And that's not a bad result, just about average. And you got 45 watt fast charging support, so the same as the S26 Plus. Means you'll be fully juiced up again in just over an hour. It's not terrible, and unfortunately there is bugger all wireless charging support here. So now kiddies, let's conclude this lovely wee Galaxy A57 review with a bit of a squint at the optics. And hey, if you're hoping for a proper camera upgrade for this generation, well, you might want to go track down your disappointment pants and slip those on right about now. Because Samsung has basically just ripped out all of the camera hardware from the Galaxy A56 and then shoved it straight into the A57, although they have at least upgraded the image processing smarts. It's got a new chipset and everything. So what you've got here is a 50 megapixel main shooter. You can bump up to 50 meg resolution at any point if you want with a quick tap up there. You've also got yourself a 12 megapixel ultra wide angle shooter, and sadly there is no telephoto snapper. This is just digitally zooming. Now that third and final lens is a basic 5 megapixel macro snapper, sadly. If you fancy a telephoto camera on a mid-range mobile, you'll have to go snaffle something like the Nothing Phone 4a or the 4a Pro. And the shutter speed has improved as well, handy if you're snapping live subjects or action photos. I've only really noticed you get lag if you're snapping more than sort of 5 or 6 photos in quick succession, at which point, yeah, the processing does catch up with it a bit. You've also got improved HDR chops for this generation, and in high contrast situations, the Samsung A57 doesn't completely saturate those darker areas, though neither does it capture natural looking shadows like various Vivo and Xiaomi shaped rivals. And if the sun is out, I did see some bleaching as well if I didn't get my angles completely right, but colours are generally quite poppy without being sickly artificial, and even in softer light, the Samsung Galaxy A57 can suck up a good amount of detail and pump out some attractive pics with reasonably rich tones. Now sadly, like the Galaxy S26 phones, the A57 isn't always the best when shooting a living subject that refuses to pose. Some of my action shots were out of focus, blurred or both, even when the lighting was quite good. I did get quite a few keepers when snapping my cat and kids, even if they weren't exactly static. It's just sadly a bit unpredictable. So I just recommend absolutely hammering that shutter button and hoping for the best. And I certainly missed a proper dedicated telephoto shooter here on the A57 when snapping those family and pet pics. With this phone, you just have to get right up in your subject's face, although at least the results are usually still pretty crisp when you digitally zoom to around the sort of 3 to 4 times level, especially if that lighting is good enough for a high-res 50 meg photo. Sadly, in more ambient conditions, any digital zoom-in will result in a blocky photo that looks like it was taken with a Game Boy. But you've got an ultra-wide snapper on here if the mood takes you, as well as that macro jobby. And let me tell you, you'd certainly need a macro camera to try and find my enthusiasm for macro photography. But the video chops are pretty solid here on the Galaxy A57, certainly for a mid-range mobile. At least you can capture 4K footage at up to 30 frames per second. Although sadly there's no HDR smarts on here, but overall I found the visuals were nice and crispy. When I had it at that Ultra HD level, the image stabilizations are absolutely fine, and the noise level's not too bad at all when you are shooting in more ambient conditions. The audio capture was fine, a little bit of wind feedback occasionally on quite a blustery day, but nothing too terrible. And then finally, around the front end of the Galaxy A57, you've got yourself a 12 megapixel selfie shooter. And using that front-facing selfie camera, you can record yourself in Ultra HD 4K resolution at 30 frames per second. There's no 60 FPS option here, but again, absolutely fine for your everyday vlogging. Perfectly fine for video chats as well. I found that my vocals came through nice and clear, even when I couldn't be bothered to slap on a Bluetooth headset or whatever. And there you have it, my lovelies. That's what I reckon in a tasty wee nutshell of the fresh new Samsung Galaxy A57. You know, if you love Samsung and you fancy a slim, lightweight smartphone similar to the S25 Edge, but you don't want to have to put up with CAC battery life, well, the A57 is kind of a half-decent compromise. But you know, there are dozens and dozens of spaff-worthy mid-range smartphones available right now in 2026. So the Galaxy A57 up against some incredibly stiff competition, like supremely stiff. I'm talking mega stiff here. You know, the A57 just lacks a bit of luster compared with some of its competition, the likes of the Poco X8 Pro Max, which offers incredible specs for a cheaper asking price. And the Nothing Phone 4A series, which is a lot more interesting too. But anyway, I've done a full video rounding up my pick of the best mid-range smartphones right now, so go check that out for all of the hot competition. In the meantime, it'd be great to hear your thoughts on the Galaxy A57 down below. Please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell while you're down there. Have yourselves a ruddy, wonderful rest of the week. Cheers, everybody. Love you.